All right, so here at the flip, January 20th. There we go. January 20th up there at the top. So a little less than a month. We started basically the day after Christmas. What I'm going to do, if you haven't been following with us every episode, this is our very first flip that we've found ourselves through a wholesaler, used hard money. And I've got a checklist here because I started thinking about it the other day. I'm like, man, we started this YouTube channel to keep us, to really document it, help a lot of people. But two, starting from the ground up. That's why we called it that, because I wanted to make sure that we document every process so that you guys, who are just starting out like we are, you're going to have, what I found is there's so many investors out there and they get to this big, massive point and they try to teach you how to invest, but it just comes off so quick and so easy, all these things that you're just like, well, how do I get started? So first thing, contractor. There's nothing more important. Like, you can find the deals, you can find the money, but if you don't have a good contractor, if you're doing a flip, it's over, right? And we found that's what I would probably do first and foremost is try and interview 2 or 3 of them. And here's what you do with a contractor as well, is you make sure that you get a full budget for everything. You don't want them to do a bunch of work and then now you gotta pay for the painter, and you gotta pay for the countertops, and you gotta pay for the appliances, and you gotta go buy all the materials. Maybe if you're somebody who works in that industry, then yes. But what we found, and this is the very first flip we've done by ourselves, with hard money. We've done, some of our own personal houses and content, but that was back in Idaho where we're from. We're brand new here to Texas. So making these relationships was, crucial. And we had some past contractors that we used that were like that, to where they kind of gave you a quote. Next thing you know, it's $20,000 more, and they're trying to find all these people to fill in the gaps. It didn't work out. And yes, I keep saying it's our first fix and flip. The last one we did with friends. So a lot of you have been following us episode after episode, documenting it from start to finish. So if you haven't, make sure you go back to episode 1 and just walk through. But here's the next thing, is the LLC. I had no idea that you actually are required to have an LLC to get hard money. We wanted to leverage hard money so that we're not using all of our money out of our pocket every time, and we could try and start getting 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 of these things going at one time. We get the deal, get into contract, and they're like, yeah, what's your LLC name? And I'm like, I have one for my other business, but you don't want to use that, because if anything goes wrong on this LLC, you get sued in any way, they can go after your other business. So you need to, right out of the gate, form you an LLC, and you might struggle with the name of it. It doesn't matter. If you're not marketing with it, if it's not like an actual company name, you can name it whatever you want. We just did our last name in Flips LLC, but that now allows us to go create a bank account. The bank account is important so that you can track every single penny. Obviously, when you sell, well, maybe you don't know, and I don't know the actual number. You guys can comment down below, but if you do a fix and flip, you're automatically going to get hit with capital gains taxes, upwards of 40% of your profit. So you need to be able to track every single penny, and if you want to get a business bank account, you have to have an LLC. So I formed this new LLC within 2 days because I only had 5 days to close on it. And again, a lot of this is going to make sense if you've been following me. If this is your first time seeing me, you're kind of probably lost in the process. But I formed an LLC in 2 days because I had to close in 5. That's all we had the time to do. Well, then I go to the bank, I finally get this LLC, and they're like, well, you took the LLC that you have currently, and then you said that it owns this LLC because my CPA told me to do that. We need the formation of the main LLC, which I didn't have. I had to go onto the Texas website and pay it was a couple dollars, and then they sent me this code, and I had to go through a website, and then you get the certificate of filing, all your documentation. You have to have it. So if you are using an LLC that is owned by another LLC like I am, which is pretty common. If you're, an entrepreneur, you have your own LLC for your business. Well, the best way for taxes is to just say this one owns it. Well, that was a big hurdle. So I couldn't start a bank account, and I couldn't get funds into it to close on this whole thing. And I was able to do it Thursday, find the certificate of filing and all that information that I needed, and present that to the bank, and then start that. So now we have the business checks, the card, which all came later, which was kind of a mess because at one point we had to pay our contractor with our own private, personal bank account, because we didn't have the checks and stuff set up. Again, set up your LLC, get a business banking account before you do any of this crap. Don't do what I did and make that mistake, but at least we can track it all, every penny in and out through that account. Now, the hard money. So we went with hard money, which like I've mentioned before, it seems kind of like you're saying a bad word almost, it seems scary. But what it basically is there's these funds out there that, these lenders who have a bunch of investors who've got a lot of money, millions of dollars. They build up these bank accounts, and not bank accounts, but they build out these funds. They're going to loan you the money. And the ones that I found, basically they'll pay up to 70% of the loan to value. So you do have to do a little bit of a down payment, but they'll fund 100% of the rehab. So we had about an $83,000 rehab for this massive 3,000 square foot home, which was a pretty good deal, really good deal. And then they actually covered that. Well, they said that they think it's going to be about 90 plus thousand, 94, 95,000. So they actually built that buffer in there, and they're actually giving us 95,000, even though our contractor says we only need 83.5. That's been very helpful for us because we are going over budget a couple $1,000s. And since the hard money lender factored some of that stuff in, we get to draw that and pay ourselves back or fund ourselves, right? So as we do our first one and money's tight, that's pretty nice to be able to do. As we progress and maybe we're doing a bunch of these and we've got more liquidity and more funds, it won't be such a big deal. We can just kind of eat that cost, because if we're not funding ourselves, we'll just get funded later after the close, right? So I know that's kind of a lot of jargon, but basically if you're gonna get a set amount of $200,000 and that's to buy the property and 50,000 of it is for the flip, right? Well, when you go to pay that loan off, however much money you have drawn out is, taken away from the overall profits, and not profits is a bad way to say it, but you guys are probably following what the hell I'm saying. Anyways, make sure that, if you're gonna leverage hard money, that you actually interview a couple of them or ask 3 or 4 of them, because I have found that the interest rates can vary. It's not like a conventional loan you go to the bank. These are negotiated because they're borrowing money from somebody who's got it, right? And they're paying that guy however much, or that gal. Maybe they want 8% on their money. Okay, well, this person's gonna charge you 12%. That means they're getting the middle part, which is 4%. To them. That's why they're doing that job. So I've found that about 11, 12% is a really, really good rate. I've went through every Facebook group. I read the messages. I've called a couple hard money lenders. 12 to 14% is pretty normal. So if you're getting an 11, 12%, that's great. If you've got a friend or somebody who's got the funds and they'll do their own lend to you, it's going to save so much paperwork, so much headache. It's a lot of them trusting you, but you could get that rate considerably lower as well. But going through hard money is actually a great process. They're very professional. My hard money lender, Justin, at Quick Lending, my goodness, he pushed this whole deal together. He had the title company, all of that stuff. And you know what I didn't even mention? I forgot to tell you that you actually need insurance for flips when you go through one of these. So I didn't know that. And they're like, all right, who are you using for your insurance? And I'm like, insurance for what? And they're like, yeah, your fix and flip insurance and contractors, all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, well, we have a recommendation. So the guy calls me, gives me a quote for $2,500 for this, 6-month insurance plan. And I'm like, I guess that's okay. So I called Ozzy, my buddy, who's done all the investing. And I said, hey, is this normal? He goes, I think you can get it quite a bit cheaper. He hands me off to a guy and I interview him. He finds me a plan that actually is up to 12 months of insurance. And if you don't use it, you actually, and it was only $1,500 or $1,200, I think, about $1,200. If you only used, like, let's say 4 months of that insurance, you actually get the balance of that other 8 months you didn't use, or the 6 or the 5 months. So, I saved $1,500 cash right there out of pocket. Plus I'll get some of that back because I'm definitely not going to need the full 12 months. So it gets prorated. That's the word I'm looking for. So again, let's line this out. Make sure you have an LLC. Doesn't really matter what the name is. Make sure you set up a business bank account. Interview a couple different hard money lenders. You hopefully already have good contractors that can give you a base price for everything. You might have to go buy appliances and maybe fixtures, but that's the other thing too. Make sure that you ask the contractor, okay, what does your bid cover? I want everything. Is that switches, lights, fans, all of that stuff? Make sure you know that ahead of time so that if you're getting a hard money loan, you can put that into the budget, some of the stuff we forgot. And then you make sure you're going to have insurance, and I'll find the name of it. Maybe in the next few videos, I'll pull up that insurance quote and show you, but what everything you have to be covered on that. And I want to make sure that I got everything squared away. And then when it comes to the budget, we went through this process so fast. In fact, I did a whole video on this. where we broke down the budget, side-by-side comparison, our budget versus the lender budget, the draw process. And now what we're learning, the draw process is pretty easy. Ours is basically, if you get it in before 3 p.m. on Tuesday, you'll get funded by Friday afternoon. So that's been what the schedule we're going with. And they want 100% of the work done if you're claiming it, if you're doing a draw. Our draw is costing us $350 every time. So minimize the amount of draws you do. We've only done 2, and maybe we do 1 more when this whole thing's done, but the last one was really sizable and we were able to get them paid up. So if you're doing a bunch of smaller draws throughout the way, if that's what your contractor wants, just those fees can really nickel and dime you. So maybe talk to the contractor if you're starting out and be like, hey, this is our first one. We don't have as much money. Can you cover, like maybe 25% of the cost, and then we'll do 1 big draw and pay you for it. These are they're tough conversations that you need to have, but you gotta make sure that you can cover your bases and you're not doing draws. My hard money lender, it's a minimum of $5,000 draw, so you can't do anything less. So we've done 2 of them, so that means we've spent about $700 just in draw fees, taxes, that kind of stuff too, which can kind of eat into the profits. But man, I'll tell you what, it's nice having that budget there. And we did a full video breakdown. I want to say it was episode like maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. And it's important that you watch that. I mean, every line item, how you draw the money, why they take a 10% buffer on your budget, which means you got to put more money down. Every fee, everything was broken down in that. But all said and done, our closing costs on this house was about $27,000. That means 10,000 of it was closing. We don't ever see that money again. That's just how much you pay to play. 17,000 was all down payment, because this is a bigger house. If you're doing $100,000 flips or whatever, that's going to get lower. And then the other thing you need to know, and when we did the hard money calculator, is that when you get your loan to value way lower, including the rehab budget, 70% below the ARV, the after resale value, the lower you can get that property, price, then the less money you got to come out of pocket. So that's one thing too. You got to find really good deals. And I've been doing a lot of videos about these wholesalers. They're going to take a lot of the money off the top, and it kind of hurts your profits. So it helps when you got a lot of cash and maybe, down the road, you got a couple $1,000,000 of liquidity and you can buy these things quick and do them, and you're making 30, 40, 50, per time. But if you're just starting out, you really want to make sure you find a good deal that, is a 70% loan to value, not including the rehab budget. That way you can put as little money down as possible. That probably would have had us putting more like $12,000 to $14,000 down instead of about $17,000 down. So out of our pocket, $27,000 down. That's it. 17,000 of that obviously is our money. It's just a down payment. We'll get that back. 10,000 of it is gone. So that was about how much we had to spend, to play. But again, we got $330,000 from a hard money lender. So they paid cash for this house for us, and they've given us 90-something thousand budget, and we only had to pay 10 grand to do that. So hopefully we're selling this and making, on the low end, 60, 70,000, on the high end, 80 plus $1,000 profit, so once we get this thing sold, I'll break down every single cost, everything over budget, paid, and we'll see an exact dollar amount, and you'll know, okay, these are the fees, this is what I can expect on some of these. So hope you guys are liking this style of investing. We're not professionals. We haven't done this, literally building this from the ground up. We don't know much about it. The only thing we do know is that we wanted to do this for years, and we've been stuck in the mud, and we've listened to all the podcasts and the books, and it just buried us. And I talked to a lot of investors, and man, they just speak so fast and everything's so easy to them. They took all the lumps and bruises, but they didn't document it. So I wanted to make sure we did that. So if you would, subscribe so that you can follow along with us. And then at the same time, I know that whenever we get a lot of likes on the videos, they do better. So if you would, just take a second, pause the video, whatever, just hit the like button, and it helps our videos out. So appreciate you guys coming. If you want, and if you haven't, right here, go check out this folder right here. This is the whole Fix and Flip album from start to finish, episode 1 and above. And then I'm starting a new playlist on investing, finding an investment property, portfolio, whatever the hell you want to call it. But check out that playlist right there.